Jake had hauled cargo through dangerous routes before, but nothing like this. As he neared the border, a group of masked men blocked the road, rifles raised. The cartel thought they had an easy score, a lone trucker with nowhere to run. But what they didn't know was that Jake had seen combat before, and he wasn't about to let them take his rig without a fight. They thought he was just another trucker until he showed them who they were messing with. What would you have done in his place? Let us know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more insane stories. The sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, casting a burnt orange glow over the arid landscape. Dust swirled in the fading light as Ethan Monroe gripped the wheel of his 18-wheeler, his eyes locked on the long stretch of highway ahead. He had spent years on the road, hauling loads across the country, but this route of cutting dangerously close to the border always put him on edge. The road had been too quiet for the last 50 miles. No other trucks, no patrols, not even the usual roadside diners filled with weary travelers. Just endless desert and the whisper of the wind. Ethan kept his senses sharp, scanning the terrain. He knew this was cartel territory. Then he saw them. A line of armed men appeared on the road ahead, blocking the highway. Their faces were covered with black masks, their rifles slung over their shoulders like they had done this 100 times before. Behind them, a trio of dusty SUVs idled, engines rumbling. Ethan's stomach tightened. He knew exactly what this was. They weren't law enforcement, and they weren't looking for a friendly chat. His grip on the wheel tightened as he slowed the rig, his mind racing through his options. He could try to turn around, but that would leave him vulnerable. He could floor it, but there were too many of them, too many rifles aimed directly at him. One of the masked men, a tall figure with a vest packed with ammo, stepped forward and raised his hand. His other hand rested on the stock of his rifle. Ethan took a slow breath and exhaled. He had been through worse. Rolling the window down just enough, he let his voice carry over the idle hum of his engine. "Got a problem, boys?" The leader smirked under his mask. "You're in the wrong place, trucker." His accent was thick, his voice slow and deliberate. "That's a nice load you're hauling. We'll be taking it from here." Ethan let his gaze drift toward the others. They were spread out, surrounding him, some flanking the truck on both sides. They had done this before, probably dozens of times. Another man, shorter and stockier, stepped closer, tapping his rifle against the truck's metal frame. "Open the back." Ethan didn't move. His pulse remained steady, but inside his mind was calculating. These guys were too comfortable. They weren't expecting trouble. Mistake number one. He finally leaned out, giving them a slow, knowing smile. "Sorry, fellas, this ain't my cargo to give." The leader's smirk disappeared. The stocky man took a step closer, pressing the barrel of his rifle against the door. "Not asking twice, viejo," he muttered. Ethan's muscles tensed. He had been patient. He had been calm. But patience had a limit. The air grew thick with tension. The cartel soldiers surrounding Ethan's truck were no longer smirking. Their patience was running thin, and their weapons were shifting in their hands no longer just for intimidation. The leader, the tall man with the ammo vest, stepped even closer, his fingers drumming against his rifle. "Listen, viejo, you can do this the easy way, or you can make it a problem." Ethan didn't move, his fingers still gripping the steering wheel. He could feel their eyes on him, could hear the restless shifting of boots on gravel. They were getting anxious. Good. Anxious men made mistakes. The stocky one grew impatient. With a sharp motion, he slammed the butt of his rifle against Ethan's door. Bang! The sound echoed through the silent desert. "Open the back, now!" Ethan's jaw clenched. He forced himself to keep his breathing steady. They were trying to break him, to make him show fear. They had done this before, preyed on truckers who had no choice but to comply. But they had picked the wrong man. Behind him, one of the masked men climbed onto the truck's rear step, yanking at the trailer latch. He struggled for a second, then cursed. "It's locked." The leader's patience snapped. He pulled his pistol from his holster and pointed it at Ethan through the open window. "You got 3 seconds to open it yourself," he growled, his finger hovering over the trigger. Ethan tilted his head slightly, his expression unreadable. That a fact? The leader's grip on the gun tightened. His men shifted closer, their rifles aimed, fingers twitching. Then boom! A gunshot exploded through the air. But it didn't come from the cartel. It came from inside Ethan's truck. The cartel members flinched, scrambling for cover as dust kicked up around them. The leader's face twisted in rage. "Who the hell is shooting?" Ethan let a slow smile cross his lips. They had no idea what they had just stepped into. Inside the trailer, something was waiting, something they weren't prepared for. And the fight was just getting started. The cartel enforcers hesitated for just a moment, their eyes darting toward the locked trailer. That single hesitation was all Ethan needed. With a swift motion, he grabbed the leader's wrist, twisting the pistol out of his grip before slamming his elbow into the man's throat. The cartel boss staggered back, choking, as Ethan swung the stolen pistol toward the others. "Drop him!" he barked, his voice like a gunshot. The younger ones hesitated, caught between fear and arrogance. One fool twitched for his rifle. Ethan fired a warning shot into the ground near his feet. The man jumped back, cursing. "You think I'm just another trucker?" Ethan growled, stepping down from the cab. He wasn't running anymore. He wasn't playing their game. The leader coughed, recovering from Ethan's strike, but his bravado was gone. "You don't know who you're messing with, old man." Ethan smirked. "That's funny, I was about to say the same thing." Behind him, the trailer latch clicked. The door swung open, and then the cartel realized their mistake. Inside, strapped and secured in military-grade cases, was a shipment the cartel had desperately wanted but never should have gone looking for. Ethan's real cargo wasn't some stolen goods. It wasn't something they could sell. It was weapons. And Ethan? He wasn't just a trucker. He was the one delivering them. The cartel's faces shifted from confidence to dread. They had walked straight into their own execution. Ethan cracked his knuckles. "Now," he said, his voice low and cold. "Let's settle this properly." The cartel enforcers stood frozen, their once cocky smirks replaced with uncertain, pure fear. Ethan cracked his neck, his fingers tightening around the pistol. "You boys wanted to take my cargo?" He gestured toward the open trailer, where crates of high-grade weapons gleamed under the desert sun. "Go ahead, take a closer look." One of the younger thugs swallowed hard. This ain't what we thought, boss." The leader, still holding his throat where Ethan had struck him, glared at his men. "Shut up, it's still ours." Bang! Ethan fired into the dirt just inches from the leader's foot, sending up a spray of dust. The man stumbled back, his arrogance unraveling fast. "No," Ethan said, stepping forward. "It's not, and neither is this road. Neither is this country." One of the cartel men, barely more than a kid, tossed his rifle to the ground. "Two don't want any part of this." The others exchanged uneasy glances. The truth was setting in. They had picked a fight with a man who had nothing to lose and everything to protect. Ethan tilted his head toward the border. "Run! Get lost before I change my mind." The younger ones took off without hesitation, leaving only the leader and two of his most loyal enforcers. "You think this is over?" The leader spat blood onto the sand, his face red with humiliation. "You have no idea who I work for." Ethan sighed, shaking his head. "You cartel boys always say the same thing, like I'm supposed to be scared." He reached into the truck and pulled something out of radio. The cartel leader's eyes widened. Ethan clicked the button. "Yeah, I got him, standing right where you said they'd be." The sound of roaring engines filled the air. The cartel enforcers turned just in time to see a convoy of military-grade trucks and SUVs speeding toward them. You set us up?" the leader whispered, his face drained of color. Ethan smirked. "No, kid. You set yourself up the second you tried to hijack the wrong truck." Tires screeched as the convoy stopped, men in tactical gear pouring out, weapons raised. The leader dropped his gun before they even got a chance to aim. His last two men followed suit, falling to their knees. Ethan gave a short nod to the approaching commander. "All yours, boys. They wanted a piece of my load, might as well let them ride in the cargo hold." As the enforcers were shoved into the back of the armored vehicles, their boss met Ethan's gaze one last time, his eyes burning with hatred. "You have no idea what you just did," the man growled. Ethan smirked. "Yeah? Well, next time, maybe don't mess with an undercover weapons courier." As the convoy rolled away, Ethan climbed back into his truck. The road ahead was clear. And the cartel? They'd never make this mistake again. Ethan watched in his rearview mirror as the convoy disappeared into the heat-blurred horizon. The weight in his chest lightened just a little. He had seen men like that before, cartel enforcers, lowlifes who thought they ruled the road. They bullied, they threatened, they stole, but in the end, they all learned the same lesson. Some roads don't belong to them. Ethan took a deep breath, his grip on the steering wheel relaxing as he shifted gears. The desert stretched endlessly ahead, golden and unforgiving, but peaceful. He liked it that way. He had spent years running loads across this border, moving cargo most men wouldn't dare touch. But today had been different. Today wasn't just business, it was personal. As he drove, the radio crackled. "Appreciate the assist, old man," a voice came through. It was the commander who had taken the cartel men away. "Hope we didn't slow you down too much." Ethan smirked, pressing the button. "You know me, I never stop rolling." A low chuckle came through the radio. "Be safe out there." Ethan tossed the radio onto the passenger seat. Safe? That wasn't in the job description. He passed a weathered sign that read, "Welcome to the United States." He was home. For now. But he knew it wouldn't be long before trouble came knocking again. It always did. Still, today it sent a message. You don't take from a man like Ethan. You don't block his road. And you sure as hell don't try to steal his truck. As the sun dipped lower, casting the desert in hues of fire and shadow, Ethan let out a quiet chuckle. He had been doing this a long time, and one thing had never changed there would always be men who thought they could take what wasn't theirs. But out on the open road, respect wasn't something you asked for, it was something you earned. And for those too dumb to understand that, well, the road had a way of teaching its own lessons. What do you think? Have you ever faced a situation where someone underestimated you? Or maybe a moment when you had to stand your ground? Let us know in the comments. And if you love real-life stories of grit, action, and justice, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.